how are you this week?
Hey, it's Heather.
It's Carrie.
And welcome to Week 7 Challenge of CISD Pride. This week we are focusing on Disney Infinity because just like your classrooms in this game, the characters are working in the same environment, but they are able to highlight their individual superpowers. So our students need to be able to do this in our classrooms. So our focus this week or challenge is going to be to demonstrate how you adapt lessons to address the individual needs of our students.
Ties along perfectly with T-Test Dimension 2.4, differentiation. And we're adapting and addressing all those different learning styles in the classroom.
Awesome. Okay, so just like every other week, I'm going to be sending out this playlist in a PDF with all of these strategies linked for you to use in your classroom. And we will also have an extra couple of things attached this week, but we're going to discuss those later on in this recording.
All right. So this week we are concentrating on the high yield strategies you see on the screen, but we are going to highlight connect the dots and reading symbols. Now remember, when you are tweeting this week, make sure to use any type of strategy from the playlist that shows differentiation. We're just going to share a little bit more about these two particular activities.
Awesome. So let's hear about connect the dots.
All right, so connect the dots is all about making connections among four different visuals, four different terms, four different characters, events, people. So those circles in the corner represent the four things that you are comparing. Students will work together to demonstrate similarities and differences along those arrows that you see on the document. This is really going to be a strategy, though, that I suggest you take some time and really read on the playlist.
Yes.
Yes.
It takes a little time to understand. It took us a little while.
It took us a couple of readings. So you might have four different characters in the same story, or you may be comparing fiction stories and nonfiction stories about the same event, or making some real world connections between your students, the real world, and maybe some characters that you've read.
Okay.
But students will be highlighting similarities and differences, and one of the nice things in here is you're going to be wanting your students to write incomplete sentences.
Ah, yes.
So they're going to be able to justify what they're reading in the text. They can go back and provide evidence. They can write similarities and differences, complete sentences. So we're really hitting the ELPs and some different learning styles.
Very good.
Okay. Here's an example of the Connect the Dots activity. So you can see the different areas, and I would probably pause the video and kind of look in close. But this also highlights how to differentiate this activity. For this particular group of students, the teacher went ahead and wrote and typed out the similarities and differences for those students. The students were still responsible for trying to place those similarities and differences, those statements, onto the document correctly.
Gotcha.
So they were still practicing the skills, but it was differentiated for them. And that's, again, the focus of our challenge this week, is to differentiate.
Awesome.
So with that one, a great discussion can still happen because the students are still deciding where to place things on the paper.
Okay.
Now, this is an illustration, again, of Connect the Dots, but I believe my partner in crime, the other half of my brain here, is going to create a template for you to use in Google Slides, and she'll be sharing that out for you.
So instead of it being a blank document, which is included in the strategies playlist, this will be a typable Google slide. Editable. It's a typable.
It's a typable.
Because you can
I like
type
that word.
in it.
I like that word. That's a good word.
Where you can actually fill it in instead of it being dark black circles, and you write on it, or you bring in separate pieces of paper and match. So this will be something just a little bit different. Maybe for our older students who have Chromebooks, this will be a good resource to use.
Okay.
Okay, next.
So our second one is reading symbols. Students are going to be working independently or in small groups to predetermine some symbols to use while they're reading. So you're really wanting students to mark up texts or mark up passages.
So let's not use library books for that.
Let's not use library books for that. Or maybe class novel sets, probably not a good idea. But you could have the students record these reading symbols on Post-it notes and place them into the book, but not actually draw on the book themselves.
True.
The whole purpose of the symbols, though, are to have the students demonstrate what their they're thinking in their own minds. So as they're going through the text, they're marking it up, they're making connections, they're noticing questions or points of excitement or humorous points or summarizing. You want to kind of come up with the symbols ahead of time and have everybody in agreement on what those symbols are going to be. And this is perfect because this allows a teacher to be able to catch a glimpse of what's going on in the student's mind.
Yes.
And that's when we're trying to determine maybe a small group reading lesson or how to get kids around a teacher table for an intervention lesson, the ability to see into their minds and how they're understanding and processing the text is going to be hugely helpful there.
And what does that look like in an actual text? Let's look here.
Well, here's some demonstrations, and this one actually demonstrates some things that they did to differentiate for the student. So they've agreed on some markup text, but one of the things you could do to differentiate would be to have students underline particular vocabulary words, like the student underlined the word observed, and then they drew an illustration to help them understand what the word observed meant. You could have a student maybe highlight a word or two that they don't understand and act that word out for the class.
Oh, I love it.
Or
Kinesthetic
pantomime.
learning. Mhm.
Exactly. You could do a million and one different things to differentiate this activity.
Okay.
And one of the things we're going to include in this week's email is a list of markup strategies. So I wanted to
very good.
provide some examples of what that could look like. Doesn't mean you have to use those exact symbols when you're marking up a text, but it does give you kind of a starting point to get going with that
Good.
one.
Awesome. And so when you are differentiating reading passages, sometimes you need a little bit of help electronically. So we have a couple of web tools for you. These are actually web tools and are on iOS, so they are available on the iPads as well. But these are both news sites where you can find news articles and stories and even like parts of the Constitution, and you can differentiate them by reading level. So you can
Fantastic.
find a news article written in the New York Times and bring it down to a 4th grade reading level if need be. So it really levels the playing field in your classroom and helps students find text that is readable for them.
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay? Now,
Captain
this
America.
is the awesome flair that you will be receiving this week for differentiation.
I was pretty
Woohoo!
creative with those
I
squares.
know. And this week, our current week in week 6, we are working on curiosity. But have you noticed that we haven't had a whole lot of tweets
We
yet?
have not had a whole lot of tweets.
Yeah. You think we could do something to help out our
We could probably
friends?
do that. We didn't realize when week 6 curiosity rolled around that was going to coincide with end of the 9 weeks testing.
9 weeks test for secondary. Ah!
I'm not sure a unit assessment test is really the best measure of curiosity.
No.
So we have not had a lot of tweets. So
No.
we have a timeline that we need to stick to, but we want to help everybody out. So for week 7, for our differentiation week, if you did not have an opportunity to submit your tweet for week 6, curiosity, we're going to let you double up.
Double down, baby.
Exactly. What we're really going to need for you to do when you tweet out your responses for curiosity and for differentiation, please make sure to put in your tweet whether this goes for week 6 or week 7. So you will get an opportunity to go back and catch that piece of flair. I know a lot of you received lunches from the ICAT team for participating in weeks
Yes.
1 through 5. And once we realized that we had come up against the end of the 9 weeks testing, we want to make sure to give everybody an opportunity to keep playing because there are more prizes to come.
Yes! Cumulative prizes.
So
Week
remember,
10's gonna be fun.
You can tweet out for week 6 and week 7, curiosity and differentiation, and we will get those flares to you as you
and
get
because
the
of
tweets
this,
done.
we do not have a level up this week. We are going to allow
No
everyone
level
to
up.
kind of catch up a little bit. No level up. So be sure and get those tweets in.
And remember, the I Am Sturchy account does need to like your tweet. That's how you know I've recorded you on the document. If I do not like that tweet, I did not see it. You may need to retweet or check and see if there was an error with the hashtag.
Yes, and the hashtag again is CISD Pride.
With
where
a
the
number 1.
Very good. So here we go. It's time to
Game on.
Oops.